Christine Orono is, I'm working currently at Absa Bank Kenya Limited. I've had a career with Absa for the last, it's going to 28 years, and I'm very happy about working at Absa. I work within the people function, what other companies call the human resources function. And really my role there is to, support our people to be the best that they can be to deliver the business objectives. Other than that, I'm also a career coach. I love the aspect of work, coaching people around finding their best self and really understanding who they are in terms of their talents, their skills, and their strengths so that they can deploy them appropriately in the work that really brings out the best in them. So that's who I am. Where it started, is that what you asked?
Yes.
It started many years ago, like I said. My first job, when I left school, I was actually first employed as a cashier in a restaurant. And you know what? I was trying to remember the other day, I was earning 800 shillings. I mean, today, what does 800 shillings, what's the value of 800 shillings? But that's where it started, humble beginnings. And those are some of the things I'd like us to discuss.
Wow, humble beginnings, punchy. It has a way of shaping who we become in future. Just to get the conversation going, you work as a senior business partner, human resource business, people business partner at Absa Bank Kenya. And Absa Bank Kenya takes pride as an organization that partners with the society just to make ready the young people for the next roles and just to take up their careers. Please talk to us a little bit about the Ready to Work program.
Thank you, Hilary. The Ready to Work program, which is, a big pride of Absa Bank Group across Africa, is a program that is there to equip our young people, particularly, students who are transitioning from learning to earning. You've just come out of school, maybe it's high school, maybe it's university, college, whatever stage it was, and we're transitioning the students into the world of work, helping them to understand how the world of work works. And some of the aspects of our Ready to Work program include work skills, like the subject of today's webinar is really around work skills. How do you get yourself ready for the world of work? How do you understand how to compete in a market that is crowded? How do you stand out? How do you make sure that you're able to present yourself and what you have to offer the world? We also offer within the Ready to Work curriculum entrepreneurial skills. How, if you choose to go the self-employment route, what are the skill sets you need to be able to get ready for that? How do you deal with money? How do you work with other people? The world of work requires each and every one of us to partner with others, collaborate with others. None of us works on our own. And so one of the big pillars of our Ready to Work program is around developing the people skills of our youth so that they can be effective wherever they choose, whichever path they choose in their careers. So basically, ours is to really build the future of Kenya, to build the future of our nation in terms of the resources, our human resources, work with our students. We also run scholarship programs. You can find all this information in our website, and I'm sure you'll be enlightened. One of the other things you will find in our website is the Ready to Work curriculum is open to all, and we encourage each and every one of you who's logged in today. You can share this also with friends. We have a Ready to Work curriculum that covers these areas that I've mentioned broadly. So that is our Ready to Work program, Karibuni.
Thank you. That is a great highlight of what Ready to Work is all about. And I would just encourage the participants in the audience, even if you've not been able to access the portal, please make sure you check it out. It has a lot in store for you. Building up on just a question around being ready to work. I've been pondering about it from my personal experiences, where it started. I don't know whether I was ready. What does it mean to be ready? Are there certain rituals? Are there certain disciplines that one probably like their signpost that now I'm ready? Could you just highlight a bit about this readiness?
Thanks, Hilary. I spend a lot of time with young people, and that's one thing that I feel that, we can, an area that many young people require is how do you transition from, being a student, being dependent on your parents, to a point where you are able to, you have the right attitude, skills, and knowledge to compete in a world, in the workplace. So being ready to work is very important in that each and every one of us, when we leave school, school does not teach us anything about work, the workplace, And so programs like this help us to really impart knowledge and skills around what it takes to thrive post-school. When we're in school, we're taught to, regurgitate information, to pass exams and that kind of a thing. But the workplace is a completely different environment where you are required to deliver some results in the job or in the work that you are doing. So being ready to work is really about the attitudes. When you get into the workplace, what attitude is required of you? How do you relate with people? It's really walking the young people through what does it take to get a job, you don't just leave school and enter a workplace blindly. There's a lot of research you need to do. There's a lot of information you need to arm yourself with. The workplace has its own rituals. The workplace has its own ways of working. So for example, we talk about, for you to get a job, you've got to go through various can I say, processes, So you've got to make an application. You've got to be able to create a CV that can present you in companies, in organizations. You've got to be able to present yourself and talk about yourself, present what you can do for the potential employers. You've got to be able to understand how the workplace works. How do you relate with fellow co-workers? How do you deliver results? It's not just about the knowledge we have. So when we leave school with knowledge, academic skills. We've learned a few things in the college, but you need to be able to translate that knowledge into skill sets that actually deliver results. So in the workplace, the language changes completely. We no longer talk about, grades A, B, C, D, or scores in exams. We now get to a point where your work is assessed differently. So being ready to work is really having a good understanding about how the workplace works. How will you thrive in the workplace? What is required for you to deliver to who you really are, understanding yourself, and so on. So it's a very wide and broad field that we deal with in Ready to Work.
Thanks for that, Christine. And just to elaborate, just to talk a few highlights on what I've picked from your comments. You've talked about the value you bring to the organization. You've also talked in equal length on understanding the culture or more about the organization so that you can be able to fit in. I would want to just take it a notch higher. 2020 has almost turned around humanity in several aspects. And certain things will never change, probably. One of the things is just the world of work. Tied to that, reports by Josh Bassin, reports by World Economic Forum, reports by KPMG, and major research institutions indicate that the world of work has completely changed. And this brings me to the next question to you, Christine. What do you see is the future of work? What are the relevant skills that you see from your professional practice as a people function practitioner? We've moved away from human resources. We are now in the human capital management. From a human capital manager, and from your personal experiences, what do you view as the critical skills for the future?
Wow, that's a loaded question. We could be here for a while, you know. One of the things that you will find is that the world is, the major shifts that have happened in the workplace. So for example, you know, even when we look at Absa Kenya, for example, most of us are actually working from home. So there's been a big shift towards, you know, work is no longer a place to go to, you know. You know, the boundaries between work and life have really been blurred. So you'll find that, so work now is, you know, it's not about clocking time, you know. We're seeing a situation where, you know, you're given an outcome to achieve and nobody, you know, is supervising or micromanaging you. You're supposed to manage yourself to deliver the results that is expected of you. So that means you can work from anywhere. As a matter of fact, you know, you're seeing across the world, people are moving away from cities even into now back to the rural areas. Probably there's an urban rural migration already happening. So now one of the skills that then it become very evident is self-management. You need to be able to manage your time, manage your outcomes without the need to being micromanaged. So you see in the past, in the workplace was very hierarchical. We had managers, we had team leaders. So now today, with the way we are working, people are now having to manage themselves wherever they are. And so that requires one to have the right attitudes, a can-do attitude, one where you're able to collaborate with people virtually. That's a very tall order for many of us who've been used to working close to people and, you know, collaborating face to face. Now that has changed. So virtual skills becomes very important in that environment. You know, now we are collaborating through virtual tools like Teams. We're using Zoom, communication and the like. So that requires us then to be able to adapt to this new world of work. So with this constant change, then one needs to be very adaptable, very resilient. We don't know where the next change is going to come from. So one of the skills that are a must-have today is resilience. We need to be able to be flexible enough to change when the situation demands, you know. All of us need to have a mindset that is open, flexible, work from anywhere, a kind of an approach. One where you're able to collaborate with people in other parts of the world. That means culturally, the boundaries have also been brought down. Today we're working, you know, with people in other parts of the world. You need to be able to be culturally sensitive. So, I mean, for the young people today, the landscape has significantly changed for you. You need to be able to transcend culture. You need to be able to think that, you know, globally. You need to be able to deliver results wherever you are. We're talking about managing yourself. And we're also talking about being savvy with technology, being comfortable with the tools and skills and tool sets that we're using today, which are very different from where we have come from. That's just a sample of some of the things I am seeing. A big drive towards use of technology in our workplaces, a blend between human skills and technology skills is what is required in the coming world. So we used to talk about a future, but the future is actually here. We're talking about a world that is completely different from what our parents, our grandparents worked in. I hope that gives them a taste of what it's like.
Thank you so much. I know that the topic around the future of work and future skills is a broad one,
yes,
but you've given it a very good summary. What motivated you to choose the career path that you have adopted today? Or what was the thinking behind it? Was there some motivation to choose the career path that you chose?
Okay, so Hilary, unlike the youth today, I didn't have that opportunity where I was well exposed to career fields. Like the information wasn't there. So when I started off working at Absa, I just joined to do anything. Sounds a little bit naive, isn't it? But the reality is when I joined, when I started working, I didn't really have a definite career path that I was pursuing. So I actually found myself in the human resources function by default. It just happened. And but one of the things, you know, sometimes I meet a lot of young people who say, I don't really know what I want to be when I grow up, you know, and that's okay. What I normally say is that the attitude you need to have is, let me try out various things and you know, find where I settle. So that's similar to what happened to me. It's basically, I found myself in the human resources function and did whatever I was asked to do. And I think, it goes back to something that we read in the Bible: whatever your hand finds to do, do it at your best. Because sometimes you might not love what you do, but you can develop love for it. So what happened is I then, began to develop an interest in the human resources practice. And with time, even went up to upskill myself and do some courses in human resources, and found that I was actually thriving. So from the feedback that I was receiving from my managers and from the different people I worked with, they thought, wow, you were made for this. So I've invested a huge amount of time in developing myself in this field. And back to that question, I really didn't choose the field, but I think the field chose me. So I found myself here, decided to do, to develop excellence in whatever I do. And with time, I also discovered that my attributes, my skill sets matched very well with requirements of becoming a human resource practitioner, and therefore went on to develop myself further and continue to build the skill set required to thrive in this field. So I can say I grew from the bottom up. I developed myself from the bottom up. I didn't have any unique advantage over others, but I chose to invest in myself to become the best I can be in this field.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine. The next question from the audience is rather from a professional perspective. What do you look for in a CV? Very direct.
Wow. If I was to begin to do a CV workshop, I normally do a CV workshop for about 3 hours, but let me give you some few pointers. A CV is a marketing tool. It is a tool that represents you before you present yourself physically to an interview panel. So a CV is not supposed to be a big biography about yourself. You think about it this way: when you're walking in the streets of Nairobi and you get these brochures, product brochures, that's what a CV is like. It's like a quick way of attracting attention to yourself, And so a CV is not supposed to be so detailed. I usually give guidelines that a CV should be no more than 2 pages. A CV should contain highlights of what you can do, what you can deliver for the prospective employer that you are targeting. A CV should also be targeted to the potential employer that you are looking for, not a generic document. So many of the young people I see doing a mass production of a CV and sending the same document to all employers without tweaking it, without customizing it. A CV needs to be customized, but it starts off with a very good understanding of, one, who you are. So you need to be able to document, who you are, what you can do, your skill sets, and so on. Secondly, you must be able to understand the organization that you are targeting. What are their needs? They usually produce job advert, job description, person specification of who the kind of person that they are looking for. So thirdly, your CV then needs to be customized to bring out the best of who you are, bringing out how you meet the need of this potential employer. So most of the time we think a CV is just a generic document. You'll send the same document to a bank like you will send to an advertising company. It can't work. It's got to be customized. So a CV, brief to the point, clear, what have you done in the past? Why should anybody hire you? Why should anybody consider interviewing you? The CV is supposed to get your foot into the door, yeah? That is what the purpose of the CV is. It is not supposed to give you a life history. I see some CVs in Kenya where we put our height, our weight, the village you were born in. Those are irrelevant details. The details you put in the CV should be objective, very clear, matched to the job requirements that have been presented by the potential employer. Anything more than that may actually become subjective information that is used against you. So if you put your height, your weight as 200 kilos, what do you expect? People will begin to imagine who this person is. So objective, it's a business document. It needs to be printed in a business language. It needs to be on white paper. You know, now, anyway, nowadays we're not even doing it on paper. We are using electronic means of transmitting the CVs. So a CV needs to be, you know, a document that represents your abilities, your strengths, the achievements you've had from the past, in your past engagements. Now, if you're a student, you've not worked anywhere, there are things you have done whilst you are in college. There's a way in which you can demonstrate your skill set, the little skill set that you may have developed whilst you are in college. Maybe you are a leader, a student leader. Maybe you're a captain of a sports team. There's evidence and information in there that could be useful to an employer to see the potential that you have.
I think one last question is, which is also relevant to this audience, is that how do I present myself during an interview?
How do you present yourself during an interview? If you're going to meet the president of Kenya, how will you present yourself? That should be a guide for you. Now, you're going to present yourself to a potential employer, yeah? Whilst we don't want to be over the top, you need to present your best self, yeah? So it goes to basics, dressing, your grooming, yeah? It's got to be appropriate, yeah? Think about the environment where you are presenting yourself. So every organization has its culture, has its the way in which they work. So how you present yourself in a bank may not be the same as how you present yourself, say, to you know, an advertising company or a radio station like where Caroline Mutoko works. It's a very different environment. So you need to understand how that environment works and what is acceptable in that environment. So in the past, in banking, we expected people to be formally dressed when they come for an interview, yeah? Whereas another environment may not require that. So dressing is number one, grooming your presentation. Remember, first impressions, they last, yeah? Sometimes it sounds a little bit cliche, but the reality is it's true. Many times we make judgments about people based on how they look. It's not fair, but to start with, let them see the best part of you as you present yourself there. So that's one. Secondly, before you show up at the interview, way back, you need to know the story. What's your story? And that story is not one that you're going to be making up while you're sitting in the interview. It's a story that you have built over time and convinced yourself of it, so that when you present yourself at the interview, there's conviction even in how you communicate. Yeah. So do you know yourself? So there's always a popular question, you know, and Hillary works in the human resources department like I do. Who are you? Tell us about yourself. And I see people cringing, you know, like they can't describe themselves. So I always tell young people, even way before you start applying for jobs, can you write a 1,000 words article about who is Christine? Can you describe yourself? Convince yourself of words that truly describe who you are. Because many times we pick them from books. We pick cliche words. I can work under minimum supervision. And we know that you pick that out of a CV site somewhere on the internet. You know, it's not authentically you. So can you learn to describe yourself authentically? Many times, many of us have not been trained to talk about ourselves because we're taught to be modest. We're taught to, you know, it's too boastful to talk about who you are, you know. But let me tell you that as you begin to go out there and market yourself, you need to be able to describe this product. Who is this product? Who is Christine? What can she do? What can she deliver? What is her passion? What drives her? These are questions you need to have answered way before the interview. Even by the time you are putting the CV, these are words that should be consistent right from the CV document into the interview room. Many times we don't take enough time to understand who we are. And that really impacts how we present ourselves in the interview. Because you don't come out as someone with conviction. You don't come out with somebody who's authentic even as you're communicating. It just feels like you overnight sat browsing the internet on how to answer interview questions, and you just regurgitated that. So for me, it starts with in here. Before you go to the world out there, start in here. Take stock of who you are. Self-reflection. Understand what you bring. Ask your friends. If you're not sure, ask your friends, who is the best of Christine? What do you see as my strengths? Pick up from your past experiences. What have you done great? so that when you appear in the CV, in the interview, you're also able to describe that to some good detail and it will look authentic. But when you are just rehearsing a few days before the interview, it doesn't work. So young people, even right now, start that process. Understand who you are. Get comfortable talking about yourself. That is the first step towards acing an interview. That's all I can say for now. Again, an interview skills training can take us another 2 days.
Wow. Thank you so much, Christine.